Esther chapter 2. Achar hadbarim ha'ele, kishok hamat ha'melech Ahashwerosh. Dhachar et washti, we et atar ashata, we et atar nigazar aleha. After these words or things, the wrath of the king Ahashwerosh was abated. As the wrath of the king Ahashwerosh was abated, he remembered Vashti and what she had done, and that it was decreed upon her, and what was decreed upon her, or perhaps, and how she was cut off. No, and how he was cut off from her. Probably what was decreed concerning her. How he had condemned her, the Greek text says. Okay. وَيُهْمَرُ نَعْرَ هَمَّلَكَ. And the servants of the king said, Masharatayu. The servants of the king, the ones serving him. The lads of the king, the ones serving him, said, Yevakashu lamelech na'arot betulot tovot mareh. Let be sought for the king young women, virgins, good ones of appearance. وَيَفْقِدْ هَمَّلَكْ بِقِيدِيمْ بِكُلْ مَدِينَوْتِ مَلَكُوتُهُ. And let the king appointed ones, officers in all the provinces of his kingdom. وَيَقْبِثُوا et kol na'ara betulat ovat marha el shushan habira el bet hanashim el yadhega sarisa hamelek shomer hanashim wanaton tamarukehem. And let them gather all the young women, all the young virgins, good of appearance, to Shushan, the palace, to the house of the women, to the hand of Hagar, the prince of the king, or eunuch of the king, the keeper of the women, and to give Tamaruqehem, their remedies, or purifications, or treatments. وَهَنَّعَرَا أَتْرَتِيتْ أَبْ بَعِينِ هَمَّلَكْ تِمَلُكْ تَحَتْ وَشْتِي. And the lass who is good in the eyes of the king, let her rule in the place of Vashti. وَيِّتْ أَبْ هَدَّابَارَ بَعِينِ هَمَّلَكْ وَيَعْشُكَيْنِ. And the word was good in the eyes of the king, and he effectuated thus. Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan habira. A Yehudi man was in Shushan, the palace, and his Ushmo Mordecai, and his name Mordecai, ben Yahir ben Shimei ben Qish, Isha Yemini. Mordecai, the son of Yahir, the son of Shimei, the son of Qish, the son of Yemini, a Benjaminite. Atar hogla mi Yerushalem, who was exiled from Jerusalem. Im Hagola at Hoglita, im Yekonia, Melech Yehuda. With the exile which was exiled with Yekonia, the king of Yehuda. Atar Hagala Nebuchadnezzar, Melech Babel, whom Nebuchadnezzar, Melech Babel, king of Babel, exiled. Vayahiyehomen et Hadassah, and he was supporting Hadassah or bringing up Hadassah. He Esther bat Dodo. She is Esther, the daughter of his uncle. Ki en la Abraham, for there was not for her a father and a mother. Wahanara Yafat Tohar Vtovat Maraher. And the lass was beautiful of appearance or form, and good of appearance. Uvamotaha biha wimma, laqaha Mordecai lo levat. And in the death of her father and her mother, Mordecai took her to himself for a daughter. ويحيى بهشا معدبرها ملك وداto. And it was in the being heard of the word of the king and his decree. وبهقا بثن عروت ربوت الشوشان habira Eliad Hegai. And in the being gathered of young women, many young women to Shushan, the palace, to the hand of Hegai. Watilaqah Hester Helebet Hamelk Eliad Hegai Shomer Hanathim. Also, Esther was taken to the house of the king, to the hand of Hegai, the keeper of the women. وَتِتَبْهَنْ عَرَابَ عَيْنَيْهُ. And the lass was good in his eyes. وَتِشَّ حَسَدْ لَفَانَيْهُ. And she lifted up loving kindness before him. She bore loving kindness. She obtained kindness from him. وَيَوَهَّلَ et tamaruqaha wa et manotaha la tetlah. And he hurried her purifications or treatments and her portions to give to her. Wa et sheba hanarot haruyot la tetlah mi bet hamelech. And the 7 lasses which were shown to give to her from the house of the king. وَيَشَنَّهَا وَإِتْنَعَرُوتَهَا لِتْأُوبْ بَيْتَ هَنَّاثِيمْ. And he changed her and her lasses for good to the house of the women. To the good house of the women? To the good of the house of the women? For good to the house of the women. It's been translated as the best place of the house of the women. Lo higida Esther et ammah wa et moladtah Ki Mordecai thiwa aleha atraloha tagid. Esther had not related her people and her begetting, for Mordecai commanded upon her that she not narrate, reveal. Ubekol yom wa yom. Mordecai mitahallek lipne hasarbet hannathim. And every day and day, Mordecai is walking about before the court of the house of the women. La da'at et shalom hester wa mahya ashbah. To know the peace of Esther, Esther, and what is done with her. Ubahagi Torah Na'ara Na'ara Lavoh Helaham Melech Ahashwerosh Miqes Hayot Lah Kadat Hanashim Thnem Ashar Hodeth Ki Ken Yimelahu Yeme Murukehem Shitha Hadathim Beshemen Hamor Washitha Hadathim Babbashamim Ubetamaruke Hanashim. And in the approaching of the turn of the lass and the lass, a lass, to come to the king Ahashwerosh, from the end of the being for her, according to the decree of the women, 12 months, for thus were fulfilled the days of their purification. 6 months in oil of myrrh, and 6 months in spices, and in purifications of the women. Wabah Hanna Arabaha Helhamelech, and in this the lass came in to the king. Et kol ataratohamara yinna tenelah, lavoha immah, mi bet hannathim ad bet hamelech. Whatever she asked, it was given to her to go with her from the house of the women unto the house of the king. Bagharb hi baha, vabokar hi thaba, elebet hannathim sheni. Eliyad sha'ashgaz saris hamelech, shomer hapilagashim. In the evening she came, and in the morning she returned to the second house of the women, to the hand of Sha'ashugaz, the eunuch of the king, the keeper of the concubines. Lo hatavo od ela hamelech, ki him hafeth bah hamelech, v'niqraha b'shem. She did not come again or still to the king, except the king delighted in her, and she be called by name. Ubahagi atora hasater bata bi hail, do the Mordecai atarala kahlo levat la vo el hamelech lo vikasha davar. Vikasha davar ki ima eta atar yohamara he gai sarisa hamelech shomer hanashim. Watahia Esther no shehet hen be'ene kol roeha. And in the approaching of the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, which he took for her for a daughter, her turn to come to the king, she did not seek a thing, except what Haggai said. Haggai, the chamberlain or eunuch of the king, the keeper of the women. And Esther was lifting of favor in the eyes of all who saw her. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of women are just going with uh, their natural instincts and doing all kinds of crazy stuff to their hair and face and whatever that many men would look at and think, I don't take pleasure in that. But this woman was wise enough to listen to a man's perspective and find out what was necessary and right and what would likely please the king. وتلاقى أستير إلى ملك أحشويروش إلى بيت ملكوته بحدث عشيري هو حدث تبيت بسنة السبع لملكوته. And Esther was taken to the king Ahasuerus, to the house of his kingdom, in the 10th month. It is the month Tebet, in the 7th year of his kingdom. وَيَهَبْ et Esther mikol hanashim. And the king loved Esther from more than all the women. وَتِشَهِنَّ وَحِسَد لَپَانَيْوْ mikol habbatulot. And she lifted favor and loving kindness before him more than all the virgins. وَيَاشَمْ كَثَرْ malakut baroshah. And he set the crown of the kingdom on her head. وَيَمَلِكَهَا تَحْتَ وَشْتِي. And he made her queen instead of Vashti. وَيَعْشَهَا مَلَكْ مِشْتَغَادول لَكُلَّ شَارَيْوْ وَعَبَادَيْوْ at the Mishte Esther. And the king effectuated a great feast for all his princes and his servants, the feast of Esther. وَهَنَاهَا لَمْدِينَوت عَشَا. And a day of rest for the provinces he effectuated. وَيِتَنَ مَشَهَتَ كَيَادَمْ هَمَّلَكْ. And he gave a gift. He gave a gift like the hand of the king. وبهقابت بطولات ثانيت ومردكاي يوسف بثغر هملك. And in the second gathering of the virgins, also Mordecai was sitting in the gate of the king. En Esther magadet مولدته وإطعامها كاترث عليها Mordecai. Esther was not relating her birth or her people, like which Mordecai commanded upon her. وإتمها Mordecai Esther عوشا كاتر hayata behomna in it behomna hito. And the saying or word of Mordecai Esther was effectuating, like which she did in her being brought up, her nourishment, her training her upbringing with him. Bayamim Hahem, Mordecai Yotheb Bethagar HaMelech. In those days, and Mordecai was sitting in the gate of the king, Garth up Bigathan wa Teresh Thanesari se HaMelech Mishom re Hasap. Wayavakashu Lishlo Hayad Bamelch Ahashwerosh. Bigathan was angry, and also Teresh, the two of the eunuchs of the king, from the keepers of the threshold, and they sought to send a hand to the king Ahashwerosh. Wayuwad Hadavar Lemordecai. And the matter became known to Mordecai. Wayaged lehester hamalakah, and he narrated to Esther the queen, what tohmer Esther lamelech b'shem Mordecai. And Esther said to the king in the name of Mordecai, Wayavukash hadavar wayimma theh. And the matter was sought, and it was found. Wayitalu thnehem ala eish, and the two of them were hung upon tree. Wayikatib besefer divrei hayamim lifnei hamelech, and it was written in the book of the words of the days before the king.